Hello everyone, my name is Ned and I'm a nerd. Okay, I know that's not funny, but I'm about to tell you a story that still puts a knot in my stomach to this day, so just give me this, okay? When I say I'm a nerd, what I actually mean is that I'm really good with computers, and not just your regular competent user either. I've been writing code since I was 13, and after 4 years, I've gotten pretty good at it. Too good, actually. Before all this went down, I'd been working on a little project that wasn't exactly legal. It was a program that allows you to hack other people's phones. I didn't really plan on using it against anyone, I just love a good challenge. And if this challenge would allow me to mess with some popular kids' phones, then that's just a nice bonus. I finished this program about a month ago and decided to give it a test run in detention. Hey, I said I was a nerd, not a goody two-shoes. There were only 4 other students in the classroom. The teacher was gone for the most part, so I felt pretty safe trying my new program. I sat at the back of the room and turned on my laptop. I'm not going to bore you with the details of how it worked exactly, plus I'm a little concerned that I'd get in trouble for revealing the principles of, well, let's just call it what it is, my illegal spying program, but it was a success. I managed to collect data from all the phones that were connected to our school's Wi-Fi and located within a 50-foot radius. I couldn't believe it. I decided to look through the data I'd collected. The main reason I wanted to do that was... am I gonna sound like a creep if I admit that my crush just happened to be in this classroom as well and I wanted to go through her photos? I know it was so wrong, but I just couldn't resist. I was hoping to see some cute selfies, and definitely dreading seeing any pictures with a boyfriend I didn't know she had. Plus, I already invaded all the other students' privacy, so I thought, might as well. But as soon as I started looking through all the images, I immediately forgot about everything. Amongst all the pictures, most of which were shots of homework or class notes that students always exchange, I saw tons of one girl's photos. Jackie, a girl from our school that was announced missing about a week ago. At first, there were just regular pictures that she'd posted on her social media pages. That itself was kinda weird, why would someone download all her photos? But as I went through more images, my face went pale. There were pictures of her tied up, sitting in some sort of creepy basement with her mouth taped and her eyes filled with horror and tears. Her face was beaten up, and there were bruises all over her body. The window behind me clapped and I almost jumped out of my seat. My hands were shaking. One thought was going through my mind. Someone in here did this. Someone who's sitting amongst us right now kidnapped this girl and is holding her hostage. I looked around and saw 4 regular teens. None of them seemed even slightly dangerous. My crush, Stella, and her friend Brittany were there. Then there was one of our school jocks, Brad, famous for his nasty temper and incessant bullying. And finally, there was Ben, a quiet, artsy introvert who was constantly drawing something and barely talked to anyone. I sat there frozen, looking around at a seemingly typical detention class knowing it was anything but. I had no idea what to do. Do I tell the principal? Do I call the police? I knew that was the obvious thing to do, but I was scared. They'd find out I broke the law and send me to jail. Plus, what if Jackie was already dead? What if the police would think that I killed her and was just trying to pin it on someone else? I am embarrassed to admit it, but I chickened out and didn't go to the authorities right away. However, I couldn't just leave it either. I figured that since I was the one who saw those pictures, then I had to be the one to solve this thing and at least try to save Jackie. To find out whose phone all those horrific images came from, I had to hack each one individually. That was a very time-consuming process, and since I was in a hurry and filled with terror, I kept screwing up, which wasted even more time. I decided to start with the 2 girls. After all, isn't it always the seemingly innocent ones that commit the crime in all those horror and detective movies? Well, as I learned that day, real life isn't a movie. I wasted about half an hour looking through their galleries just to find nothing significant. As I was about to start checking the other phones, the teacher came back to announce that we could go. For the first time in my life, I wasn't happy that detention was over. I didn't manage to check the guys' phones. I quickly glanced over and saw Ben and Brad getting their stuff and leaving. Jock Boy Brad was the first one to jump to his feet. Our eyes met, and he gave me a weird look. It lasted for just a second, but I was so hyped up at that moment that this alone seemed suspicious to me. I didn't have much time to think of a game plan since he was about to leave, so I decided to improvise. I jumped up and rushed over to Brad. Hey, I'm sorry about Jackie. I forced myself to talk. I saw you guys together. Were you friends? What the? He gave me a stunned look. Why are you even talking to me? I just wanted to give my condolences. I tried to sound sincere, but my voice was shaking. As I was trying to justify my prying, Ben pushed past us and left the classroom. I barely noticed him. Look, you little creep. Brad pushed me up against the wall. I don't know what you're talking about, but it's in your best interest to stay away from me. Got it? I nodded. He let me go and stormed out of the classroom. I stood there for a while, not knowing what to do. At this point, I was almost sure that Brad was the kidnapper, but I couldn't really prove it without getting myself in trouble. And if I was going to, I needed to be 100% sure. But sneaking on Brad seemed way too dangerous, so I decided to follow Ben instead. If I could hack into his phone and check for sure that it wasn't him, then I'd know for a fact that Brad was responsible for Jackie's disappearance. I rushed out of the classroom and caught up with Ben. He was walking quickly out of the school. I followed him at a safe distance all the way to his house. His neighborhood wasn't the nicest, but the house seemed clean and homey enough. There was a garden outside, and I could see lacy curtains hanging on the windows. I hid in the bushes and turned on my computer. I needed to catch Ben's Wi-Fi hotspot and locate his phone. It was taking a lot of time. After a while, I finally got in. His phone was clean. A little bit too clean, to be honest. There were no pictures, no texts, nothing. I shrugged, thinking to myself, well, the kid is weird, but that's hardly a crime. So it was confirmed. Brad was the one with Jackie's photos on his phone. He kidnapped her. I was just about to turn my laptop off when I noticed there was another phone in Ben's house. That wasn't really suspicious. I mean, it'd be weird if you lived alone, but I decided to check that one too, just in case. I successfully hacked this cell phone as well, and froze in front of my laptop. It was filled with photos of Jackie. Not the ones I got from the class data, but really personal ones. Tons of selfies from different angles, her cat, her friends. It seemed as if it was Jackie's phone, I whispered to myself. The idea that Jackie may be inside that house freaked me out so much that I didn't really care anymore if I got in trouble. I called the police and told them that I knew that my classmate had abducted a girl and was holding her in his basement right now. I gave them the address and waited for them to arrive. After I hung up, I saw Ben come out of the house. He was taking out the trash. I was barely breathing, hiding in the bushes about 10 feet away. He threw the bag into the garbage can and started walking back when, all of a sudden, my phone started ringing. Talk about the worst possible moment for my mom to call. I immediately muted it, but it was too late. Ben had noticed me. I jumped up and ran away as fast as I could. All I remember after that was being hit on the back of the head and blacking out. I came to on Ben's floor with a police officer leaning over me. They'd arrived not long after Ben had knocked me out. Calling the police actually saved my life. But it didn't help Jackie. She was already dead before they got there. After the investigation was over, an official report was released. It was more horrifying than anyone could imagine. Jackie and Ben were actually friends before all of this. Well, she considered him a friend, while he was basically obsessed with her. The police found tons of drawings of her in Ben's room. Apparently, she was all he thought of and drew. Ben lived with his mom, but she was constantly on business trips for days at a time. During her most recent trip, Ben invited Jackie over to study for an exam. When he made a move on her, she didn't respond well and wanted to leave. What happened after that is too grim to describe, and poor Jackie lost her life after several days of living in a nightmare. When the police asked me how I'd found out who was behind Jackie's disappearance, I just said that Ben acted really weird whenever Jackie was mentioned, and it got me suspicious. They bought it, and I got away with my own crime, I guess. I decided to delete the program anyway, even though it did help reveal the monster that was hiding amongst us. The story of Ben's obsession that started with an innocent crush weirdly reminded me of myself. Remember, I invaded several people's privacy in hopes of getting access to some personal pictures of the girl I really liked. If I was ready to break the law like that, what else could I be capable of? I can't allow myself to become such an obsessed freak. That's why I'm gonna focus on writing codes for video games and never use my skills to stalk other people ever again.